What if your exam and your test is in a few days and you have much time to study? Not just a little behind, I mean the way behind. But most students panicked, then they do the worst possible thing that they can do. They start to read everything from page 1. But the truth is, it is the fastest way to forget everything. So today I'm going to talk about and showing you a system, a science-backed system that help you to study faster, remember more, and focus on the parts that are more important than in other parts, and everything that you need to learn faster, study faster, and get high grades. Let's get into it. First, we need to know something that's very important. When our time is short, our goal isn't to be perfect and read every part, every content. It's completely wrong. Our goal is get high grades with limited time. So, if I want to say, don't be a perfectionist. You don't need to learn everything, study every part, read all part, all content. No, you don't need this. Our goal is to just get the highest grade that we can get with a limited study time. And research in learning science shows something powerful. Let me read of my paper. Most exam questions come from a small part of the material, and I'll talk about these too in the first step of this system. So smarter students don't study harder, they study smarter and with more selectively. Let's break this into a simple steps and rules and a simple system. The first step of this system is the Pareto Principle. What is it? It's a famous rule that says the 80% of your results came from 20% of your tries. So if we want to say it, the 80% of question, of test, of our exams come from 20% of our content, of our chapters. So it's very important. It is relevant to that research that I said. The materials, the 80% of materials come from 20% of contents. So if we know it that we just need 20% of our content, we just need that 20% to study. So if it is real, how we can find that important 20%? You have to do these 4 tips. You have to pay attention to these 4 tips. The first one, you have to go and look for your past exam questions. You have to see which questions appear more in all exams. For example, your test is your final test, and you have to see and go and see your past exams, which questions appear more, which questions repeated more in these all exams. It is the first thing that you have to go and search for that, and it is one of things that come in this 20%, this important 20%. The second one is topics that your teachers repeats. See your teacher's note, or I don't know, if you have a lecture of your teacher, if you have a video, audio, something like this, see that which content that your teacher repeated more. It's really important, and it is in these 20% too. The 3 is the chapter summarizes. You don't need to, as I said, read all parts. You have to go and select and read and study the chapter summarizes. The chapter summarizes are really important. And the last one, the fourth one, is bold headings in your textbook, in your book. Go and see your bold, big titles in your book, in your textbook, and they are in our important 20% too. For example, you want to study biology. You don't need to go and start from page 1, the first page. For example, you have to focus on the main systems, like nervous system, like I don't know, digestion, and something like this. Then you have to go and look for key processes. It's really important. And you have to go and see which diagrams are very common and they repeated more time, they appear more time in our textbook, in our book, and it will help us to learn faster in our limited time. So the first step is the Pareto Principle. Then step 2 is not rereading. What is it? You know, when our study ends, we start to skimming again, to rereading, and it's really false, and it's not true. It's really wrong. Why? Because we have to test ourselves. After our studying, we have to test ourselves. How we can test ourselves? We have to use active recall technique. What is active recall? Active recall is a really famous technique and rule that says when your study ends, you have to close your book and with a blank paper and with a pen, with a pencil, you have to write down everything that you can remember of your study content. I mean, is that content that you study, the chapters, for example, movie, the lecture that you listen to that, watch that. And it's really important to test yourself after your study time. For example, I study, history. After that, I have to close my book and start to write down everything that I can remember about history, about World War I, World War II, about the details, about the dates. And after that, when I do it, I have to compare my concepts, my notes with my book. For example, in my book, the dates was, I didn't write the dates because I didn't remember it. So I have to correct with a red pen, of course, with a red pen. Is my notes, and write down, for example, this date is true and it's wrong. And after that, I have to study that parts, that gaps that I didn't write them on my paper, on my note. So you have to use the active recall and another technique that I'll tell to you. So if I want to review the active recall, close your book, write down everything that you can remember from that content that you will study, then go and compare with your book, with your textbook, and select the parts that you didn't write down or you didn't remember them, and study them, rereading them. And active recall help us to memorize better and better. The second tip that you have to pay attention to that in this active recall is the Feynman Technique. You have to use technique too. So the first one, is the first method of this active recall, because active recall has two powerful methods. The first one was blurting method. The blurting method was that I said now, but some people say active recall to blurting method, they are same. But the next one is the Feynman Technique. For example, I study about a math or a physics law. In here, I have to imagine that I have a conference from content that I study, and I have to explain this content for my audience. And my audiences are the children. Yes, the children who are, for example, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old. And I have to explain a complicated subject like a physics law for them. So I have to make my content more simple, and more simple. And it's really help you to memorize better. It's the content. I'm sorry. So when you use Feynman Technique, at first you have to make it simple and talk about it. First, as I said, imagine it's a conference and you have to explain this physics law for people, for audience that are children who are 7 years old, 8 years old, and you have to make it simple. But For example, you study this part, and after that you see, oh, I use a complicated vocabulary. In here, you will understand in your conference, for example, you will understand you didn't learn it completely because you are using complicated vocabularies, sentences. So you have to try to make it more simple and more simple. So if I want to review the things that we learned up to here, in the first step, we learned how we can select the most important part, or the 20%, as I said. In the second step, I talk about after your study how you can test yourself with active recall. Active recall has two techniques: blurting method. You have to write down everything that you can remember and then compare with your original text. And Feynman Technique, in talk about and like a conference, present, like a presentation, present a complicated subject like physics law to students, to children, who are 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, and make it simple. And the brain loves the simple things, so you will understand that better and really faster. Now in the third step, I want to talk about, after 1 day or 2 days, you will forget everything that you learned. So what we have to do in here, we have to use spaced repetition. As it's called, spaced repetition, we have to repeat our content that we learned, but with some space. For example, after 1 hour, it's a quick review. Later, for example, next day, we have to review it again. 2 days later, we have to repeat it again. 3 days later, repeat again. And 1 week later, we have to repeat it again. It's really simple. You have to put it in your schedule of your day and repeat the contents that you learn, that you study. For example, after 1 hour, 2 days later, 1 week later, and it will help you to memorize it better. It's the content that you study. And it is really simple. It was the third step of our system. Now, the fourth step, or the step 4, is study smart with time blocks. When you're studying, it's really good to make a timeline first for yourself and make some blocks for your study time. For example, today I want to study math and history. And if you want to know how you can study, for example, 2 subjects in a 1 day, and in a short time, you can see this video. In this video, I talk about how you can study 4 subjects in 2 hours, and I recommend some very good techniques that you can use them. But now in here, it's really good to make a timeline for yourself and put some blocks in here. For example, in the first block, study math. In the second block, study history. Third block, math. And in the fourth block, again, math. And it will help you to learn better. And pay attention to this. You have to put rest blocks between your study times and study blocks too. You have to put a 5-minute rest block. Some people name it blocks, for example, studying, but the name of this technique is Pomodoro method. That you have to 25 minutes study and 5 minutes break. It's really simple, Our system, as I said, is really, really simple. And if you use that in a limited time, you can study your lessons, and after that, you can get high grades with this system. But in the break, you have to pay attention to some tips. First, don't use your phone. And second, no social media, because scrolling up destroys information that you memorize it, and it will destroy it. Instead, you have to walk, you can stretch, or you can drink water. And these works, is to walk, to just, for example, stretch, or something like this, to drink water. Fresh keeps your brain fresh and sharp. It was our 4th step. If I want to review the things that we learned up to here, in the first step we talk about how we can use and how we can select the most important parts to study. In the second step, we talk about active recall and Feynman technique. In the third step, we talk about spaced repetition, and in the fourth step, we talk about Pomodoro technique. But in here, we have to pay attention to some tips, and we have to pay attention to some mistakes that students does them, and it's really bad, and we mustn't, I can say, we shouldn't do them. The first mistake is starting new topics at the last minute. When you're, for example, uh, people who study at the night of exam, they do this because when they start from page 1 to the last page, the last concepts are new. They are new, of course, but they study them in the last minutes, and it's really bad mistake. So the first mistake is do not study new topics at the last minutes, because our brain feels tired, and I can say, we don't learn them completely through and completely. So do not do this. It's the first mistake. And the second mistake, all-nighters. Stay awake all night. I can say studying at night is really bad, and it's really harmful. So don't do this. Pay attention to these two mistakes. First, do not study new subject at the last minutes. And the second one, don't be awake. Just sleep, and the next day start your studying with more energy. And it is some tips that you have to pay attention to them. And the step 6 is about the final 48 hours strategy. It's like a checklist that in step 6 that you can use them, use some techniques, use these checklist to become ready for your exam. The 48 to 24 hours before your exam. First, focus only on top topics. Again, the new topics, the top topics that you selected in the first step. Focus on them, repeat them with a spaced repetition. Practice questions, quiz yourself. And if you don't know how to make quizzes, you can see this video. In here, I introduce a tool that you can use that to make quiz, and it's really help you. And the third one is fix weak areas. For example, with active recall, when you write down, you will understand, yes, I have weakness in here, so go and study and reread that part. It is 1 and 2 days before your exam. Now 1 day before your exam, you have to skimming, or it's better to say quick review only. Next, no new learning. It's really important. Don't learn a new topic before 1 day before your exam. It's really bad, and don't do this. And at last, summarize the formulas. Again, the formulas, the dates, I don't know, for example, in story, the grammars, if you have English or Spanish, you have to do these works 1 day before your exam. Now, night before, it's really important. Stop studying early. It's really important. Don't study. Next, prepare materials. It's really simple. And relax your brain. And go to bed soon. It's more important. And it is night before and morning of your exam. Quick light review only. It's really important because you have a stress, and no stress, no heavy studying, as I said. And our goal in the day and the night of our exam, the morning of his exam and night of exam, is to be calm, because if you become calm, you of course have better performance. And it was our system. This system has 6 steps, and with these steps you can study really faster in a limited time. Or no, of course, it's a really good study system that you can use that. Now, if I want to review these steps, first, focus only on important 20%. I think I said it 4 times. It's really important. 2, test yourself instead of rereading. And I said, if you want to know how to make quizzes, you can see this and watch this video. The third one is review in short spaced sessions, a spaced repetition, and protect your sleep and energy. It's really important because you have to be energetic and have energy to study, to be calm, and I can say performance better. If I want to say, don't study harder, study smarter. It's really help you. Now, I said all things that I know about this system. If you like this video and in comments write for me which topics do you want to talk about, that what's your problems, and of course I'll see and share videos about your problems too. And if you think you need these techniques for study, hit the subscribe button and become the first people on this journey with me, because my channel is really a new brand for me, and help me on this journey. Okay, have a great day, good job, and goodbye.